remind you of something? There are a lot of people who, attend church and they know a lot about the Christian faith, but they've never let it made a difference in the way they live their lives. And that's what I want to talk about today. In this series, we're talking about those untapped power sources. We've talked about, how we handle adversity. And if we look to see what God is trying to teach us, we can see them as opportunities instead of obstacles. Last week, we talked about living with an awareness of God's presence in our lives. And we talked about some things we can do to be aware of God's activity among us day by day. And today I want to talk about the power we receive when we share the stories of God's activity in our lives. I think that's one of the most important sources of strength that we can have if we just would share our stories with each other. And I have a few texts I want to pass along to you that kind of make the point. The first one is from Psalm 105, and I want you to listen to some of the phrases that the psalmist uses as he talks about his experience with God. He says, "Give thanks to the Lord, call on his name, make known among the nations what he has done. Sing to him, sing praise to him, tell of his wonderful acts. Glory in his holy name. Let the hearts of those who seek the Lord rejoice. Look to the Lord and his strength. Seek his face always. Remember the wonders he has done, his miracles and the judgments he has pronounced." And then Paul says much the same thing in kind of a different way in Colossians. In chapter 4, he says, "Be wise in the way you act toward outsiders. Make the most of every opportunity. Let your conversation always be full of grace, seasoned with salt, so you may know how to answer everyone." And then in 1 Peter chapter 3, it's verses 15 and 16, he says, "But in your hearts, set apart Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect, keeping a clear conscience, so that those who speak maliciously against your good behavior in Christ may be ashamed of their slander." For a period of time, there was a small group of daytime talk show hosts who made a career out of pulling secrets from their guests. This group included personalities such as Ricky Lake, Jenny Jones, Montel Williams, and Jerry Springer, just to name a few. The only one who has survived to this day is Dr. Phil. And like those who went before him, Dr. Phil can get people to talk about almost anything. I don't watch the show, but the last time I checked, the topics he has discussed has ranged from spousal deceit to out-of-control teens to obsessed ex-lovers to freeing a mom convicted of killing her husband. I find it interesting that talk show guests can unveil all sorts of odd perversities on national television and no one bats an eye. But let someone make reference to spiritual values and just watch what happens. The host gets flustered. He'll stammer around and he'll say, "Well, that's fine for you, but religion is a private matter." And then very quickly, he'll move on to something else. Religion is routinely swept under the rug. Now, I know this might sound kind of strange, but I've noticed that many of us have something in common with these talk show celebrities, and it's not our ability to coax others into telling us their deepest, darkest secrets. No, I'm referring instead to their reluctance to talk about spiritual matters. Like those television personalities, many of us have this strange aversion to discussing spiritual realities with our friends, neighbors, coworkers, family members, or even the folks at church. We'll talk about the news, weather, sports, movies we've watched, our families, what's happening at work, almost anything. But for whatever reason, we are reluctant to talk about matters of faith. I've tried to make sense of this for years, and I think I've come up with at least a few reasons why we are reluctant to talk about what God is doing in our lives. The first has to do with our culture. In this age of tolerance, acceptance, and political correctness, with its emphasis on respecting the rights of others to believe as they so choose, we are reluctant to express how we really feel because we don't want to offend anybody. We don't want to give anybody the impression that we're trying to impose our beliefs upon them, so we keep our mouths shut rather than saying something we might regret. The second reason has to do with our upbringing. We've been taught there are two things you just don't talk about: religion and politics. I mean, those subjects are just too controversial, too personal. Discussions on those issues can easily lead to arguments and misunderstandings, and since most of us really don't like confrontation, we just avoid the subject altogether. Or maybe it has to do with our fear. Since many of the people we live with and work with have heard the name Jesus used more as a curse word than as the name of a historical hero or a beloved Lord, we are reluctant to bring things up. We know that their understanding of who Jesus is limited at best. And if we start talking about what he's done in our lives, they might start asking questions we can't answer, and so we don't say anything. The end result is we keep our experiences of the faith to ourselves. Why do I not bother to bring this up? Because I am convinced that our reluctance to talk about what God is doing in our lives has robbed us of one of the greatest sources of strength available to us. And that is the encouragement and the inspiration we get as we share our stories with one another. Scripture makes it clear that one of the most important activities we can engage in terms of encouraging each other and building each other up, is the recounting of our stories of God's activity in our lives. Over and over again, the psalmist says, "Make known what the Lord has done," or "Tell of all of his wonderful acts," or "Declare the mighty acts of the Lord." But perhaps the Apostle Paul says it best. In Colossians 4:6, he says, "Let your conversation always be full of grace, seasoned with salt, so you may know how to answer everyone." I think we all would agree that words are important. Used properly, they have the power to challenge us, instruct us, encourage us, and inspire us. Well, here, Paul urges us to tap into that power by making sure that our everyday conversations are seasoned with salt. To help you understand what that means, we need to talk about salt a little bit. What does salt do? Well, these days it makes us nervous because it can lead to high blood pressure, so we feel a little guilty every time we reach for the shaker. But generally speaking, salt has two primary uses. First, salt makes us thirsty. That's why bars serve salty pretzels and peanuts free of charge, to get people to drink more. At least that's what I'm told. But salt does something else too. It adds a little spice to the taste of things. I mean, who'd want corn on the cob without it? Whenever we eat something that tastes a little bland, we reflexively reach for the salt to enhance the flavor. So salt stimulates thirst, and it adds a little excitement to the taste of things. What does that have to do with our everyday speech? Simply this. As you talk with your friends and your family members on a regular basis, they ought to get a sense from the things you say that your Christian faith makes a difference in how you live your life each day. The stories you tell ought to create a spiritual thirst in them. Likewise, as you express yourself openly and honestly, not hiding the fact that you're a Christian, your opinions ought to add a little zing to an otherwise bland cup of soup. God's desire is that we live our lives to the fullest. And He wants our everyday conversation to reflect that kind of joy and contentment and where it comes from. Some of you are listening to this and you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, are you saying that I need to turn every conversation into a spiritual discussion? The answer is no. I'm not saying that you should start badgering your buddies and tell them to get saved or you're going to hell. All I'm suggesting is that you start to tell the truth, the whole truth, about what God is doing in your life. You see, when we take this admonition seriously, everybody benefits. We benefit because as we begin to tell our stories, we're reminded of the fact that God has not abandoned us, but He is right here with us, and He's capable of doing some incredible things. In Psalm 18, David tells of an encounter he had with Saul, in which he was almost killed. He says, "The cords of the grave coiled around me. The snares of death confronted me." In his distress, he called out to the Lord, and he says, "From his temple he heard my voice." And then David tells the story in dramatic fashion of how God came to his rescue. By the time he's finished with the story, he's so awed by what God has done that he fills the scroll with his expressions of praise. And see, that's just sort of how it works. As we tell our stories, we're reminded of God's goodness, and that just kind of re-energizes us. I had a young man who took my AIM class. Through no fault of his own, he had a rather difficult past. As a very young person, he had to deal with some very heavy issues that someone his age should not have to handle. For a long time, he was reluctant to talk about it. But I think he would tell you himself that the process of putting his story down on paper for AIM class proved to be very therapeutic for him. It reminded him that God had not given up on him, but He had lots more in store for him. And that realization just kind of re-energized him and gave him the motivation he needed to begin to confront his fears. Friends, it's important that we tell our stories because they give us the evidence and the encouragement we need to keep going. Not only do we benefit as we tell our stories, the church does too. I think we all would agree that being a Christian can be tough sometimes. We find ourselves in situations where we have to make some difficult decisions. It's not always clear exactly what we should do. I mean, we try to do what's right, but it's a struggle. It helps, though, to hear that others are struggling too, that they're trying to come to terms with everything that's happening. And hearing the stories of others just gives us the encouragement to keep growing and to keep learning. In that classic description of the early church in Acts chapter 2, it says that they met together in the temple courts every day, and then it says that they broke bread in their homes and ate together. I wonder, what do you think they talked about as they sat around the table and ate? No doubt they talked about the sermon they heard that day. They probably shared their needs and concerns with each other and took some time to pray for one another. And I'll bet they talked about what was going on in their lives, how God was working among them, stretching them, encouraging them to grow and learn. And it was that interaction, that sharing of their stories that spurred them on and enabled them to live out their faith day by day, even in a hostile environment. I taught a Sunday school class one time where we used a discussion format, and I encouraged the people who attended to tell their stories to one another. About 6 months into it, I noticed that this one fellow had developed a rather regular attendance pattern. So I said something to him about it, and he said, "I just can't afford to miss." just hearing what the others are going through is such a help to me. It reminds me that I'm not unique, that I'm not the only one who's struggling with how to live out my faith. He paused for a moment and he said, I guess that sounds kind of strange, and maybe it is, but it sure helps me. We benefit, the church benefits, and those around us benefit as we tell our stories. I am convinced that there are a lot of people out there who are what I call spiritual seekers. Those are the folks who are in the process of making their way toward God. And no doubt you know some people who fit that description. Many of them have questions, and they want answers, honest answers. When we talk with these people, and we all will at some point, what better way to respond than to simply say, well, this is what God has been doing in my life? I found that approach to be very effective. You see, it takes the faith from the realm of the abstract and it brings it into the everyday, and it makes people think. 1 Peter 3:15 says, always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. I mean, what better evidence for our faith is there than that which God provides us day in and day out? Friends, you don't need some Bible degree to share your faith with others. You simply need to be willing to tell your story openly, honestly, and respectfully. One time I was talking with a fellow who had recently lost his job, and I said to him, man, that's rough. I know, I've been there. And he said, oh yeah? Tell me about it. And so I told him the whole story. He said, well, how did you handle it? And I explained to him the whole process I went through. You know, the grief, the anger, the getting stuck for a while, how with the help of a friend I was able to pray, and how God worked as a result. And as I was talking, I could see the wheels turning in his mind. When I finished, he said, thanks for being honest with me. And then he paused for a moment and he said, do you think that would work for me? And I said, it couldn't hurt. And he kind of laughed and he said, yeah, I guess you're right. And then he walked away. No, he didn't become a Christian that day. But he thought about it. Maybe for the first time in a long time. And who knows where that might lead. Friends, to help drive this point home, I want to refer to the Apostle Paul. You know, we know him as this great man of faith. He's the guy who's responsible for writing about 80% of the New Testament. We think of him as this spiritual giant and this man of great wisdom. But let me ask you, where did all that wisdom come from? I mean, obviously, Paul was a really smart guy. He trained under one of the most respected rabbis of his era, and he was qualified to be a rabbi himself. But there's a big difference between knowledge and wisdom. You know as well as I do, there are a lot of really smart people out there who just don't know how to function in this world. They don't know how to take the knowledge they've gained and apply it to matters of everyday life. And see, that's the difference. People with wisdom have learned how the world works. They've learned how to take the knowledge they've gained about life and use it to make consistently good decisions. Now, Paul was a smart guy, yes, but his wisdom came from his experience. He was one of the first people to live an overtly Christian life, and he did so in an openly hostile environment. We read about Paul's story in the book of Acts, and Paul's life was not easy, not by a long shot. But see, his wisdom came from all those experiences. And he was able to then to take those lessons and share them with others through his letters. And countless people down through the years have benefited from those lessons. In fact, we're still learning from them even today. And that's why it's so important that we share our stories with one another, because we never know who might benefit from them. So what stories do you have to tell? What has God been doing in your life? Don't keep it to yourself. Tell us about it, because it'll do us all some good. And I know this firsthand. Yesterday, we said a final farewell to a good friend of mine who passed away from cancer. I met Dan when he was in his 40s, and at that point, he was still relatively new to the faith. But he took his faith very seriously, and he listened to what he heard. And after a period of time, I noticed that there were some changes in Daniel's behavior and patterns of speech. And it wasn't long after that we had these people, showing up as visitors at our church. And so I would go to visit with them, and I'd ask them how they found out about our place, and they'd say, "Oh, I work for Dan," or "I'm one of Dan's clients," or "Dan is a friend of mine." Now, I'll be the first one to admit to you that Dan didn't look or act like the perfect church member. I mean, he didn't carry around a big, heavy Bible. He didn't come to church in a suit. To be honest with you, we were lucky if he came in pants. Most of the time, he came in shorts. But you see, Dan understood something that a lot of people don't. He understood that the Christian faith is not just an intellectual pursuit. It's something that's meant to be lived out each day. He allowed his faith to make a difference in the way he lived his life. He took the love that he had received from God and he displayed it for others to see. And in the process, he made God's love something that was real and meaningful for them. And that's why I look at Dan as a success story. I mean, there were other people who knew their Bible a lot better than Dan did, but nobody lived it out the way he did. He was willing to share his story. And I can tell you that there were a number of people whose eternal destinies were changed because they learned of God's love and power through the story that Dan shared. And that's why it was standing room only yesterday, because people loved him for it. Friends, we, as a body, can have that same effect on people. We just need to be willing to share our stories. Let's pray. Lord, we thank you that you are an active God. You are involved in our lives in ways that are just sometimes incredible for us to imagine. Lord, we need to be able and to be willing to simply share with others the things that you're doing. As we do so, Lord, you're able to take the things that we say, no matter how imperfect they might be, and you're able to use them to touch people, to remind them of your goodness and your love, and as a result, you're able to draw people to yourself. Lord, we want to be a part of that. And so I pray that we would have the courage to be able to just share our stories with the people that we come in contact with in ways that are just sort of natural, without being pushy, but just being honest about who we are. And Lord, people respect that, and they'll be changed by it. So we look forward to seeing what you're going to do as we begin to share our stories with the people around us. And it's in Jesus'